Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking a fascinating theological mystery that completely reshapes how we view the ancient history of our planet. We're looking into the research of biblical scholar Ryan Peterson, who proposes that the very first verses of the Bible actually hold clues to a completely lost epoch of time. It's a concept known as the Genesis gap theory, and it attempts to answer some massive questions about the Earth's true age, a potential pre-Adamic world, and a literal cosmic war that predates humanity.
Okay, let's dive into this. We naturally assume that the creation of Adam and Eve was the absolute beginning of Earth's history, right? But Peterson's research suggests that the source texts actually point to an ancient pre-human civilization that existed right here on this planet. And not just that, a civilization that was entirely destroyed by a massive global judgment way before mankind was ever even formed.
To understand how this all fits together, we're going to look closely at the textual evidence across 5 key areas. We'll start with the gap theory itself, explore the hypothesis of an ancient angelic rebellion, look at the biblical patterns of this rebellion, discover humanity's proposed cosmic purpose, and finally, see how this ancient history might connect to end times prophecy.
So, let's start with Section 1, the Genesis gap theory, a textual mystery.
Our investigation begins with a really profound anomaly right at the very opening of the book of Genesis. When you compare Genesis 1:1 and 1:2 side by side, something subtle but huge pops up. Verse 1 says, God created the heavens and the earth perfectly. But then, verse 2 immediately describes the earth as being without form and void. Notice that only the earth is described as being formless and ruined. The heavens? They were perfectly fine. So this isolated ruin on earth strongly implies there's a missing gap of time between these two verses.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the original Hebrew text for the phrase translated as formless and void. In Hebrew, it's Tohu wa Bohu. Throughout the Old Testament, this specific phrase is consistently used to describe the direct aftermath of a devastating divine judgment. Plus, the verb haya, which is often translated as was, actually implies an action or a transition. Because of this, many early church fathers stretching all the way back to the 1st and 2nd centuries argued this should be read as the earth became without form and void. It wasn't created as a ruin, it was judged and turned into one.
To back this up, the researcher points to the prophet Jeremiah. In chapter 4, Jeremiah has this unique vision where he looks backward in time rather than forward, and he uses that exact same phrase, Tohu wa Bohu. But remarkably, he notes that in this formless earth, all the birds had fled, and there were ruined cities, yet there were no men. Peterson interprets this, along with Isaiah 45:18, which states God did not create the earth in vain, as proof of a pre-Adamic civilization that was just utterly wiped out. What's fascinating is how this theological framework actually creates a bridge between Scripture and modern science. By placing a gap of time between verses 1 and 2, the theory leaves room for an ancient earth that could be millions or even billions of years old. At the same time, it maintains that humanity's specific genealogical history on this planet is only about 6,000 years old. It kind of neatly ties the two concepts together. So who was responsible for all this destruction? That brings us to Section 2, Lucifer's ancient rebellion, the cosmic crime scene. Let's trace out how this builds a chronological flow of events, or what Peterson calls the scroll of time. First, you have the original, perfect creation where angels are present. Job 38 actually mentions them shouting for joy when the earth's foundations were laid. Then, during this ancient, undefined gap of time, Lucifer rebels. This rebellion triggers God's global judgment, causing the earth to become void. It's only after this massive judgment that Adam is finally created on a restored earth. So the primary suspect for this ancient corruption is, of course, Lucifer. And Ezekiel 28 provides a truly fascinating description here. It places Lucifer in Eden, the garden of God, adorned with precious stones, and not just any stones, specifically the exact same stones God later instructed Aaron to wear on the high priest's breastplate. The theory posits that Lucifer actually served in a high priestly role right here on earth, representing the divine realm, until iniquity was found in him and he tried to elevate his throne above God's. Moving on to Section 3, the typology of rebellion, finding patterns in Scripture. To really grasp this ancient cosmic betrayal, we can look at how the Bible uses historical human events to mirror spiritual realities, a concept known as typology. And this brilliantly illustrates the concept. When you compare Lucifer to King David's son Absalom, the parallels are honestly striking. Both were initially perfect and uniquely beautiful, which is exactly what led to their prideful corruption. Both sat at the gates and essentially stole the hearts of the subjects, slowly seducing them into a rebellion against the true king. And incredibly, in Absalom's final battle, his hair gets caught in a tree, and he is defeated while literally hanging suspended between heaven and earth. It perfectly mirrors Satan falling like lightning from the heavens.
This leads us to Section 4, Humanity's Cosmic Purpose, the Replacements. With the original Earth judged and Satan cast down, God initiates a whole new phase. He restores the ruined Earth and creates Adam. But why? Well, to understand human purpose in this framework, we have to look at the literal math of the rebellion. Satan managed to seduce exactly 1/3 of the angels to rebel against God. This leaves Satan severely outnumbered, 2-to-1 against the loyal angels. But it also means the heavenly order has been fractured, creating a literal void in the divine family that somehow needs to be filled.
According to Peterson's research, humanity is basically dropped right into the center of a cosmic trial. Think about it. Unlike the angels, who stood directly before the throne of God and saw the reality of the supernatural realm with their own eyes, humans operate completely in the dark. We're designed to find God purely through faith. By choosing God blindly, humanity serves as Exhibit A, proving to the angelic realm that God's way is just and true. Ultimately, the theory suggests that redeemed humanity is destined to judge and permanently replace that fallen 1/3 of the angels. So under this theory, your daily choices of faith, they're actually playing out on a massive cosmic courtroom stage.
And that brings us to our final section, Section 5, Shadows in the End Times, where history repeats.
This ancient historical framework isn't just about the past. In this view of Scripture, there is truly nothing new under the sun, and the past is a direct shadow of the future end times. So the crucial point is that Satan's current strategy is essentially a repeat of his ancient pre-Adamic agenda. Because he's militarily outnumbered in the spiritual realm, the theory suggests he needs humanity to generate supernatural power. He attempts this by unifying human worship through the Antichrist, which directly mirrors the ancient Tower of Babel, where unified, rebellious humanity was said to be capable of anything, maybe even opening supernatural portals. And that final confrontation? It's destined for Jerusalem, the exact location Peterson identifies as the original holy mountain of God, the ancient Eden, where the rebellion first began.
As we wrap up this explainer, we're left to ponder a grand, cyclical view of history. The gap theory presents a narrative where Earth is the enduring center stage of a war that predates us, yet entirely depends on us for its conclusion. If the ancient past perfectly mirrors the future, what role will humanity play in the final cosmic battle? It reframes human existence not just as a random biological event, but as a critical deciding factor in a sweeping cosmic trial. It definitely makes you look at the first few words of Genesis in an entirely new light, doesn't it? Thanks for joining me as we unpack this fascinating theological mystery. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.